Hi everyone, welcome back to PrepLoop. Today we are starting with one of the most important concepts in programming, variables. So from now on, every program you write will use variables in some way. So let's understand them clearly and slowly. So let's see what is a variable. So variable is basically a name given to a place in memory where we can store data. So for example, you can think of it like a container or a box, and we put some value inside that box, and whenever we need it we use the name of the box, not the value directly. So for example, instead of remembering the number 25 everywhere, we simply store it in a variable called age and use age in our program. So remember, the variable is just a named container to store data, and it also can be changed later. Okay, now let's see types of data. So we have local, instance, and static. At a very high level, Java variables fall into these three categories. So we will revisit this in the later in OOPS with proper examples. For now, just remember these names: local, instant, and static variables. Okay, and let's go to the classification now. So let's see the classification of the variables. So we have primitive variables and reference variables. The primitive variables holds the actual data, whereas the reference variables holds the address of the objects. This we can see in the next video when we read about data types. And now we remember there are two classifications of variables: primitive variables and reference variables. Now let's start writing a variable. So before starting any Java program, like I told in the previous video, we have created the class variables demo, and we have to write a method main. So main is the method where the execution actually begins. Let's write the main method: public static void main and string args. I'll explain all this in detail in the coming videos. Yeah. So let's start declaring a variable. So let's see what is the syntax of it. So before moving to this next step, I would like to say that these are comments. Okay, whatever I have written inside this two slashes and then this star and this one, I'll explain about this comments and other things later. For now, just remember that all these things written inside this will not be executed and will not show any errors or something, so we can write anything here. Okay, now let's see the syntax. So for a syntax, this is the syntax. First we need to write the data type of the variable and then the variable name. Okay, so this is how you declare a variable. Okay, so this is declaring a variable. So what is data type? So data type is basically type of data the variable will store. So in Java we always mention what type of data the variable will store, and then we'll give it a name. So let's start with declaring the variable. So int is one of the data type which stores integers, and let's say age. Now this is the data type. Okay, and this is the name of the variable, and I have successfully declared a variable here. Now next step is to store some data inside this, right? To store, the syntax is we have to write equals and the value. Okay, so for example, the age equal to 20. So we have declared a variable called age, and the type is integer and stored a value 20. Let's print this. So to print this, like I told in the previous video, we have to use system.out.print and print the age. Now let's run this program. Yeah, you got the value 20 here. Okay, this looks very small. To update the how the console output looks in the IntelliJ, you have to go to settings, and in editor color scheme, you have to go to console font. Okay, I will select use console font instead of default, and I'll give some maybe 15 or 16 and apply. Okay, this looks better, right? And let's give some color as well, maybe yellow. Okay, for the standard output. Okay, there are many other things, so user input, system. So for now standard output is nothing but this output we print. So we'll apply yellow. Yeah, this looks better, right? The 20 is printed. Now let's see, let's declare one more variable with a different data type. For example, we'll use string this time, and our name John. Okay, now let's print John, that is using the name. Okay, and now I'll run this. If you see, the same output we got. And here if you see, all the outputs are coming in the same line. To make this come in a different line, we have to use print ln instead of print. Let's try this now. In the later videos I'll completely explain all this clearly. Okay, so use print ln instead of print and you'll get 20 and John here. So this is how we declare a variable and assign values to that. So to finally understand, we have declared two variables, age and name, and each one is of a different type. So we will talk more about this data types, that is string, int and many other data types in the next video. But for now, just understand that these types decide what kind of value the variable can store. So the age can store only the numbers, that is integers, and the name can store only string values, any string. Next, we can update these values. So how do we update a value? So the syntax will be, we have to use the variable name and assign a new value. Okay, so to do this, for example, age is 20, right? I will declare it as 30 now, and I will print that age again. I'll just copy. Okay, and then I'll run the program. If you see 20 and 30, it is changed to 30. The same holds for the John as well. So we will just print the name and then we will run. So we will see the same name again. So before that, if we change the name to some new John value, and then if we run the program, it is updated to new values. So this is how you can update a variable and say use the same name and it will hold a different value now. So this is the same variable name we are using and it holds John first, and then we update it to new John now. And if I use the same line, these two line gives a different output now, right? Yeah, let's see what are the rules to declare this variable. So we are giving some name to the variable, right? It has some certain rules which we need to follow. It's some basic simple rules for naming variables. So you cannot start any variable with a number. For example, I cannot use one age. It throws some syntax error. Okay, you cannot use spaces. For example, in the first name, if you use space here, it throws the error. And also you cannot use any special characters other than underscore and dollar. If you see, I can use underscore and dollar here, but if I use any other symbols like star or hash, it throws the error. And also have a habit of using the meaningful names, that is the first name. So instead of using X, I will not know what X is, right? If I see age, I will know what it is. It's the age of someone. So similarly, it's better to use meaningful names. Yeah, in the end of every video, we will see some common mistakes related to that topic, and it also helps in interview questions. So in this case, for variables, the main errors, common mistakes we do will be, like I said, the naming rules, which is if you declare a variable something like one age, it's not allowed. It shows the error here, and you can even run and see the error. It says it's not a statement because the one is not expected in the beginning, but at the same time we can use it at the end, and this is a valid one, and there is no error here. So that is one of the mistake. And also, if you use the same variable, so the same variable can't be used again in the same scope. So if you try to do that again, it shows the error saying the variable age is already defined in the main method. So again, if even if the data type is different, the name, I cannot use the name here because even if the data type is different here, the variable name is already used in the scope, so I cannot use the same variable name to refer to this. It will be confused, right, which one to refer. That's the reason it doesn't allow us to use the same name. So if someone asks you that if this is a valid one, yes, it's a valid one, but it's always recommended to use a meaningful name. But it will not throw any error, it still runs the program, but it's not a meaningful name, but it's not a syntax error. But when you try to give any uh, symbols or any digits in the beginning, then that's not a valid one. And here, if you want to use the same variable name, similar variable name, you can use something like name2 or something, it will work. Okay, let's conclude. We learned what variables are and how to create them, declare them, change the values, and some basic rules for naming. In the next video, we will talk about data types, because different variables store different kinds of data. Here, the name stores string and age. So this is because of the data types. Thanks for watching.